Professor Chris Wilkins, the head of Massey University's drug monitoring system, will probably have an even better insight into this particular issue and on the ongoing impact of police operations in the sphere, and he joins us now. Professor Wilkins, thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon. Good to be here.
You're from Massey University. How on earth did you get involved in sort of monitoring drugs and gang activity and the illegal purveyance of such?
Well, I'm actually an economist by academic profession, so it's interesting. It was interesting to me in the sense that, of course, it's economic activity, but it's mainly illegal market activity. So that was my initial interest. But of course, it's always a fast-changing area, and so it's fascinating, week after week, basically.
Yes, the black economy we used to call it. I guess that's a particular interest. So how big is that in this country now? I assume it's growing all the time with the 501s coming into this country, is it?
It's still, there's a very large market for cannabis and a very large market for methamphetamine, but the scene's changing quite a bit. So there's now new drugs on the scene like cocaine, ketamine,
I guess.
MDMA, So a whole bunch of new stuff as well.
And so cannabis has traditionally been New Zealand's go-to, as you know. Obviously, there's a lot of people that believe it should be legalised. I think we're almost split 50-50 on that at the last referendum. But ketamine, ecstasy, methamphetamine, cocaine, are they all purveyed by motorcycle gangs in this country?
Well, motorcycle gangs play a really large part in the methamphetamine trade, and they're both basically local wholesale. So at the first level of the market, they often import methamphetamine, but they're involved in the retail distribution of those drugs.
So do I make a distinction between what I'd call ethnic gangs in this country, the mongrel mob and black power, and motorcycle gangs in this country when it comes to methamphetamine?
I think the way to look at it is gang culture, like everything else, goes through generational changes. And you mentioned the 501, so that was a big change that happened around 2010 onwards. Up until that point, there was a fairly peaceful environment for gangs in New Zealand. They were traditional gangs. They'd been in their local areas a long time. So there was almost like a shared agreement about doing business, about selling drugs. The 501s changed that because they were often from different gangs, Australian-based gangs, that had international connections of their own. So they disrupted that kind of market agreement that was going on in New Zealand by importing their own methamphetamine and also trying to intimidate the existing gangs here.
Okay, so the Comancheros they have a reputation of being the fiercest. I think they lived to that reputation. There's a suggestion that they've even been employing overseas army professionals to make them even more fierce and organised when it comes to violence in this country. Is this particular police operation going to put them out of business or not, do you think?
It may well put the Comancheros out of business in Christchurch, and it certainly stymies that particular group, I would say, quite a lot, because so many members at once have been prosecuted and incarcerated. And I think it is a really significant operation because the Comancheros, as I said, they changed the business model to some extent. They were a different generation of gang members, so the more flashy kind of social media driven lifestyle mode, which was new to the New Zealand gang scene and really had the potential to revitalise the gang culture away from that previous kind of delinquent model that we'd seen for so many decades. Okay,
so they're a bit more professional, a bit more organised. Yeah. Where do they get? But are they at the top of the tier, or are they retailers or wholesalers as well? Is there somebody else that controls them?
They're more, as I said, at the first wholesale level. but they did come with their own international connections. So obviously they were 501, so coming from Australia, so they already had existing networks of gangs within Australia, but they also often had international connections to drug supply. So when they came here, they came with more sophisticated surveillance and basically business models, and they also came with those connections. So that allowed them to enter the methamphetamine market that had previously been kind of monopolised or within New Zealand.
I'm interested in methamphetamine, though, as a drug. It's got a dreadful reputation and probably deserved. I've never taken it myself, but New Zealanders seem to have, well, a significant number of New Zealanders seem to have an insatiable appetite for it. I've looked at statistics which suggest that we're right up there in terms of per capita usage. Why is that?
Well, I think another way of looking at it is even though we come top of the list in terms of rankings internationally for methamphetamine in particular and also cannabis, we have very low levels, or traditionally very low levels, of things like cocaine and heroin, which are also obviously really serious drugs. I think the real market advantage of methamphetamine in New Zealand was, firstly, it could be smoked. And New Zealand had a long history of smoking rather than injection, which is probably a pretty good thing. And also I think it also kind of fitted a little bit more with the New Zealand culture, drug culture of being a stimulant and then, being able to get things done, that kind of adrenaline rush rather than the kind of heroin zoning out kind of culture that's often around drug use in other countries.
Okay, but our methamphetamine use is not declining.
No, I think what's happened in New Zealand is we've had many years of very large-scale supply from Asia. The seizures are getting exponentially bigger. If anything, the market's probably a little saturated. So the price of methamphetamine has been declining for, almost 10 years. So we're just about to put out some survey results that will really put that into perspective. So while the cost of living has, of course, been increasing for every other thing, methamphetamine and some of the other drugs have actually been declining in price. So that's not good news. So I think, and as I said, we've had this now market competition between suppliers with the new 501 gangs, but also the existing gangs have also been doing a big business.
Are there regional variations as well? I mean, for example, it was very interesting that the motorcycle gangs, and we had that sort of war between them, 12 months ago. I don't know if it's over, but it was certainly very prominent. The news that there was an entire Comanchero chapter in Christchurch and that they'd patched over another gang down there to have that kind of distribution level. If I take out motorcycle gangs, will I take out methamphetamine wholesalers totally, or will somebody else just step into that particular void?
Well, our New Zealand Drug Trend Survey has really shown up that there is significant regional differences between methamphetamine availability and also prices. So you tend to see lower prices in the upper half of the North Island and the central North Island, and the prices slowly go up as you get to the South Island and further down the South Island. Having said that, a lot of gangs have expanded into the South Island with that in mind, so they know they can get a better price in the South Island. So there's a few years back, there was a few cases where they found gangs smuggling or transporting drugs from the North Island into the South to take advantage of those prices. And also, I think there's more probably local production and smuggling entry points in the North Island. So obviously Auckland, but Tauranga as well, ports and coastline that's easy to take advantage of. In terms of how, what effect would be taking the gangs, I mean, for a start, I think that's a pretty ambitious target to try and get rid of the gangs altogether. But of course, the gangs, to me, they bring with them a more professional business model. So often, if a chapter or a group of gang members are involved in drug use, they bring some criminal knowledge and sophistication and organisation. And they can often get to a situation where they can, and obviously they come with a lot of violence and capability in terms of that. So they can often monopolise local markets. So one of the things we've been talking about for a few years is gangs' ability to monopolise markets in local areas, so small towns, rural areas. And when you talk about conflict between gangs, it's over territory, because what they want to do is they want to control a territory, get monopoly control of it, and then sell methamphetamine into that market.